What do you think the role of the government should be?
To provide a regulatory environment. I think we saw this happen with crypto, which is a good recent example. A level playing field where all competitors can compete. Now, people have different versions of what they want from government, particularly around healthcare and other sectors. But when it comes to the largest, there's 11 sectors in the economy, and many of them are regulated. My preference is to simply set the rules so you can play the football game. That's it. What you want is policy that's pro-business, pro-job creation, and then let people compete, because that's what created the American economy over 200 years ago, was this idea of capitalism and competition. I think we've swung too far the other direction, where it's too much of a nanny state. And I'm not pro-Trump, or against Trump, or it's not even, forget partisanship. I don't care. I don't care who you like as a politician. What I like is good policy. I've never made money in politics. I've made money understanding where policy will go. If I understand policy, I can make sectoral bets, and I've been pretty successful really reading policy. Like, I read the Chips and Science Act. I read the IRA. Like, I actually read what the government's doing to understand who will benefit from that, and then go invest in those sectors. It's public information. And I spend a lot of time on the Capitol Hill. I mean, I spend at least a week a month now in Washington because I care so much about policy. It gives me a competitive advantage to understand policy. And I'm very fortunate. I have something called the Shark Tank Passport. It gets you in everywhere. I haven't met a politician on either side of the aisle that doesn't like American entrepreneurship. I haven't met a leader, a world leader anywhere that doesn't love Shark Tank and entrepreneurship in their country. And I mean everywhere. It could be United Arab Emirates. It could be, Doha, in Qatar. It could be France. It doesn't matter. The Shark Tank Passport has been giving me an opportunity to really drill down into policy. And so the role of government is really to be pro-entrepreneur. That's what I believe, because that's where all the wealth of America came from, creating jobs. And so it's very defined. I say, look, this policy is bad for business, and I don't like it. It doesn't matter if it's red or blue. It's bad policy.
I think a lot of people make the argument, though, that the middle class is shrinking because some of these policies, and that the rich keep getting richer. And these last 4 years, I think, were a good example that if you had assets and you had investments, you did phenomenally well. And if you didn't, you were hit hard by inflation and policies that maybe made it more difficult for you to get ahead, more difficult to save money.
Yeah, and then the natural reaction to that is, well, we should tax those people more.
On their unrealized gains.
Which every country that's tried that, including France and England, that was a miserable failure. I mean, people just took their assets out of the country, and it crushed growth. I mean, you can't even measure it. It's so difficult. It's very popular these days to say tax the rich, but the rich already pay all the tax. That's the truth. And so there's not enough rich people to tax them into prosperity anymore, because you lose them. You should never penalize somebody for being wildly successful, creating millions of jobs. In the case of Elon Musk, or in, the case of Amazon, where, Bezos, people want to pursue him. These guys created the American economy as we know it. And I don't know why we'd want to punish them for that. It's very a populist point of view, but I'm against that kind of thing. The majority of us that are entrepreneurs just want to create a business and do well and keep our families well off if we can, and educate our children. That is the American dream. And the more the government gets involved in it, the less it happens, because government spending is very inefficient. I'd like to see less of it.
So we ask this question to everybody, and I'd love to hear your take on this. If you're living in America between the ages of 25 and 60 and you're poor, is it your fault?
And you're bored?
Poor.
Oh, poor. I thought you said bored.
You're poor.
And you're poor.
No, you got TikTok.
If you're bored, I would say yes.
Yeah. I was kind of shocked at that. No, it's not. It's a setting of your circumstance. It's the answer to that question has been forever education. Where people are underserved in America is the opportunity to get educated, because that actually determines outcomes more than anything else. If you find yourself poor, some large portion of that is because you didn't have the opportunity to be educated. We don't invest enough in our teachers and our schools and the system of education in the most basic things, in advancing reading and math scores, because that's the way we lock the door on you. If you can't read and you have low math scores, you can't go through the education system. I know that from my days in, the learning company. We spent so much time developing math and testing software. I think if you have to be poor, and you have to start, you land on the planet, the better way to answer your question. Which country on earth would you like to land in if you start with nothing? You come out of space with nothing, no clothes even, and it's like the Terminator. You're just there. I don't think there's any country better than the United States of America to just drop out of space being naked. Because if you have the skills, you have the desire, you have the interest, and you have the ability to execute, within years, you'll be wealthy.
Why do you think common sense is not taught in schools of just budgeting, finance, just being a good person, knowing how to take care of yourself? It doesn't seem like any of these topics are taught. And that was one of my issues in school, was that every topic that I learned, I had a really difficult time paying attention to because I thought to myself, this is never going to apply to me. I'm never going to be, a physicist. If I'm interested in business, there was nothing for me in high school that piqued my interest.
That's a good question. However, it is changing. Financial literacy, which is the weakest portion of our, talk about going back to being poor. The number one reason for bankruptcy is you start taking on debt when you're in your late teens. Our system wants to give you a credit card when you're 18 and you don't understand how that works and you end up building a big balance at a 21% interest. We don't teach people about that in schools. And I think the great news is it's changing. The state of Florida started introducing that into high school curriculum, financial literacy, and other states are picking it up, Texas, New York, California. I think we can fix that problem. I think school is really trying to find out who you are and find out what you're passionate about. Same with college. You got to find something that really turns your crank to get up in the morning. Some people pursue a life of philanthropic work, working with charities. That's fine too. Whatever you like. You want to be a writer, you want to be an artist. We provide you with that opportunity in America because we have 11 sectors of the economy. One thing I have seen, for example, in the last 5 years is I used to say, if you want to get a job, just be an engineer. It's not true anymore. Our fastest growing expense are artists, people that tell stories on social media, videographers, sound editors, story writers, cameramen, soundmen. I mean, we spend millions every month across the gamut of all our companies just producing content for social media. Those people I used to pay $38,000 a year. Now some of them make $250,000. Because I have to compete against people that pull them aside because they can make their own job and get 80 to 100 grand themselves as influencers. Obviously you figured that out.
Yeah. What about social programs? What do you think the government should offer to people who maybe don't have the capacity to work to that degree or maybe fall on really hard times and need something to hold them together?
My definition of social programs is education. So if you're looking to change your life, you have to learn another skill. That's education. It's not really social work. I mean, we have a lot of mental illness problems here. I get that. Education is the key, is to train people to work in the new digital sectors. That's what the government should do with my taxpayer dollars.